I try to help people be succinct, memorable, specific, and know the audience, because what a 55-year-old senior person in financial services wants to hear from you versus a 28-year-old successful associate somewhere, very different. So I try to make people think about how it's going to land as much as who they are. What would this person want to hear about you?
Hey, everybody, I'm Maureen Veitch.
And I'm Jen Giamo.
And welcome to another episode of Everybody Talks, the podcast where we explore the wide world of wellness. Sometimes we talk to experts, sometimes we just talk to each other, but we're always talking to you. And if you want to watch this episode, go to our YouTube channel right now and subscribe at Everybody Talks Podcast.
Every week, we discuss topics from nutrition and exercise to mindfulness and self-care. And today, we're switching gears a little bit. We are talking to someone who has a degree in business and organizational psychology. She began a career in human resources, heading up an HR department for a financial institution with over 2,000 employees. From 2010 to 2018, she worked as a jewelry designer in New York and was recently elected the first female mayor of Bellport Village in Suffolk County.
So that's a crazy
Diverse
resume.
career.
Yeah. Currently, she owns and runs a successful career coaching business called Lumen Agents, where she works primarily with two types of clients: mid-career professionals seeking guidance with workplace development and occupational transitions, and young professionals who need support designing their optimal career path. She's here to share her story with us today. So please welcome to Everybody Talks, Maureen Veitch. Welcome to Everybody Talks. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Yes, we're excited to have you and talk about this. I mean, I feel like your own story, like you've had all these many careers. You've had a lot of chapters. Most people only get one or two chapters. I feel like you've had a few more than that. So how did you use everything that you've been through in your story to become like kind of the coach that you are now?
You know, I would say there are two things that are happening always in parallel, and probably it's three or four, but one is sort of your professional journey, and the second is your life, like what's going on in your life. And so the pivots that I've had in my career have been informed by my professional career, but also by my life. And so, when I made the first career, I started off in human resources. I ran an investment bank. I ran an MBA training program. And I spent about 15 years in corporate America. And then I had a baby. And I didn't want to work till 11 o'clock during bonus season. And so I looked to pivot to executive search. And so I could work from home. I could make calls from home before people were really doing that. And so I spent time in the executive search business while my son was young. Then he goes off to college. And it's sort of the search business was struggling because it was a mortgage crisis. And I'm very creative. And I had the luxury of going to School of Visual Arts. And I've always dabbled in creative opportunities. In high school, I made jewelry. I worked part-time for an interior designer. And so I was able to spend 8 years as a jewelry designer. I wouldn't say I was making a lot of money at it, but I was really good at it. And then, frankly, starting or following a divorce, I needed to go back to work. And jewelry designing was an expensive and fun hobby. And I started the coaching business about 5 years ago. So life has often informed my career choices.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Was there like a specific moment that you were like, I need to start Lumen Agents. I need to start this business. Was there any kind of like aha moment for you?
You know, I think for people, I tell them to do this, and I did it myself. If you speak it aloud, it starts to become true. So I am very lucky to have a friend who's an amazing coach who put us in touch with one another.
Yes.
I don't know if I can mention her name.
You can.
Of course.
Her name is Ann Parks. She is an amazing advisor and friend. And so, when I decided, I was sort of thinking, yeah, I would be so good as a career coach, but let's test that out. And so I talked to a number of friends who, and Anne included, who were in HR, who encouraged me to do so. So I definitely thought it was the perfect, you know, place for me to add value to other people, but also to enjoy what I was doing and to leverage my experience. So, yeah, it hit me, and then I tested it with those who know me.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like, I mean, just based on your different, the different careers that you've had, you're able to kind of see, how do you pivot? How do you shift? What does that look like? And I think that, you know, having HR experience is huge when you're an entrepreneur and you're, working with all different kinds of personalities and things like that. But were there any specific lessons from your HR days that kind of led you to, um, you know, help clients today, like when you're guiding clients today in career coaching?
I always loved interviewing people.
Mm,
I thought no one was ever the same. People would always surprise me with the stories they would tell. So I think my enjoyment of sort of unpeeling the onion and my ability to stay fresh makes it interesting work for me. But also going back to HR and the question, I think when I made the transition to the jewelry business, it was very analytical. It was sort of like, okay, what are the things I would consider doing? Let's put a list. What are the ways in which I can get there? Do I have to take a class? Do I have to get certified? And then who do I know who I can talk to who can inform me about that world? And it was very analytical. So I think one of the things I've always done, both with clients now, with myself, is focus on some data, like have a process that's analytical and, sort of research informed, but then trust your gut when you're there
mm-hmm.
and let it
Sure.
unfold.
Yep.
And so I've done that myself, and I try to let people experience that same process early on in our coaching work together.
Yeah.
Is
Okay.
there a question that you ask specifically on an interview? This is just my own curiosity, like that's really like out of this world, more than like tell me about yourself, or that where you are able to elicit like the answer that you're really looking for to judge like what that person is like and if they're right for a job.
So I am very proud of the fact that Malcolm Gladwell's book Blink,
Yeah.
that
Mm-hmm.
we essentially make decisions in 3 seconds about people.
Yeah.
I do not do that. I hang in there. And I worked for a woman in executive search. She was an amazing woman. Her name is Linda Bielecki, and she taught me how to interview. And she and her daughter were the first mother daughter to graduate from Stanford's Business School,
Oh wow.
and she trained me in the technique that she learned. And my the answer to that is, as I get to know someone, I ask them repeatedly, "Tell me something you're proud of." And then, well, what do you mean? What, from work, from that? No, just whatever pops in your head. This isn't an interview question. This is me getting to know you in a turbo kind of way, because we don't have enough time to really get to know one another.
Right.
So,
Right.
so then they always start with, "Oh, I'm proud of my wife, my husband, my children." Okay. What else are you proud of? And sometimes I have to go up to five. What are you proud of? And I have in my notes, number one, number two. And what starts to happen is, after the canned answer, I'm proud of getting into Harvard. I'm proud of my children. You start to really uncover what someone's values are and what they value in themselves. So the follow up is, why are you proud of that? And they say, well, because, and here's a real example. Uh, what are you proud of? Well, I'm proud. I'm proud of going to Harvard. I'm really proud of that. My father went there. My grandmother went there. Believe it or not, and the legacy in my family is really important to me, and so I'm very proud of that. Versus, true story. I'm proud of going to Harvard. 6 years ago, I was a homeless single mother, and I got some help, and I was able to get into Harvard, and I'm here interviewing for this consulting job, and I'm very proud of myself.
Wow.
So you really, and you, some people are badge people. They want to be successful. They have an enterprising theme. I have that. We want to be successful. We want to do things well. So for those people, we want to talk about, they want to work at a company that's going to be successful. They don't want to work at a small, poorly organized organization. They want to be in a place that is a badge, if you will. Some people really are motivated by the ability to work independently. So by asking, what are you proud of repeatedly, you really start to understand what motivates a person and what they value. And that helps me, figure out where to help them, go career wise.
Sure. Wow. I like
Yeah,
that.
I do too. We last time we spoke, you mentioned you help people to craft their elevator pitch, and this is something that I struggle with. Just as a business owner, and I guess this would go more. Well, I guess it could be entrepreneurs, or if you're looking for a job. Either way, to pitch yourself, what does it look like when you help somebody to create this type of a pitch, and what are the key elements that go into it?
So everything is about context, right? So when I do interview prep with people, we do interview prep specifically for a job where I have a position description. I know what they're looking for. I help them research the person they're interviewing with. But let's say, and I did this with someone last week. Um, it's a college student, and he has a connection that has connected him with three important contacts. And they're all very friendly. And I reminded him, nothing is friendly. Everything is an opportunity to give your elevator pitch and to impress people, even if it's the friend of a cousin. So, so I try to help people be succinct, memorable, specific, and know the audience, because what a 55-year-old senior person in financial services wants to hear from you versus a 28-year-old successful associate somewhere, very different. So I try to make people think about how it's going to land as much as who they are. What would this person want to hear about you? And how, who you are, how is that going to be meaningful for them? So it's as much about your pitch and your story as it is about where is it landing.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
and then, often I'm saying to people, too much detail, too much detail. But where I employ that, this issue of knowing when to stop, I often am helping people negotiate compensation.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I read a book when I was getting divorced about negotiating, and it was written by a gentleman who was a hostage negotiator. So he was really
Yeah.
quite skilled. And but there is a way in which you ask for someone to do something, and there's specific language, and it's sort of like, oh, thank you. I'm so excited about taking this role. I'm very excited to work with the team. I think I can hit the ground running. A couple of things, the compensation. I just wondered if you had a few minutes to talk about it. The base salary of, pick a number, 200 is great, but the research I've done suggests that it should be more like 225 to 230. And I'm not asking you to answer me now, but you wouldn't consider bringing that number up, would you?
Wow.
And that's it.
That's it.
And then that's it. Because a lot of people hate to talk about money. And so they start in with, well, because, New York is so expensive, or I'm in LA, I just got a new apartment. They start to backpedal, but
Yeah.
know when to stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you do, asking for a friend, when you work for a large company and your salary is your salary, they don't have a lot of money to give you a raise, but you feel you deserve it? How do you combat that? Like, how do you ask for a merit raise when you're guaranteed a cost of living raise, but how do you ask for a merit raise on top of that? Like, how do you prove that you deserve this money that you're asking for?
So I think of two examples. A woman I know went back to work when she was in her 50s, and she was working in a doctor's office. And she was so poorly paid. I think she was making $19,000 a year. They wouldn't make her full time, and this is a sort of an answer to that, but I'll give you another example. But she really needed to make significantly more than that, and so she was interviewing with a law firm. And what we did was we said, look, first thing we have to start off with is data. Okay, let's look at what a person who does that makes in the zip code, within 50 miles of where you live. Okay, the midpoint is 48. The top 10% is, I don't know, at the time, maybe 70 in that case. So she went in and they loved her. And she said, look, about the salary, because they didn't ask her what she was making, but she said, look, I've thought about compensation and the midpoint is about 48,000, but I think I'm better than average, but I would come in at that number and with hopes that you would evaluate me in 3 months. And she, talked them through that, and she did the technique. You wouldn't consider that, would you? And sure enough, they gave her the number she wanted, which was almost 3 times what she was making, actually.
Wow.
And then she's been given, raises and bonuses and so forth. But I wanted her not to be limited by where she was today. That's irrelevant. It's what is your value? What is the going rate for someone like you? I think of my youth, my early career. I remember working in financial services where I was in HR, so I wasn't experiencing all the juicy bonuses, but HR in financial services made more than, say, in other industries. But I think maybe at some point I'd gotten like a $5,000 bonus. And the following year, I thought, I think I need to make a lot more. So I went to my boss and I was mortified and horrified and frightened, and my voice was shaking. And I just said, I'm thinking that I need a $50,000 bonus because these 10 things I've done for you, this is the going rate. I love what I do. I'm so valuable to you. And I got it. And it
Wow.
was just in the asking.
Yeah.
So sometimes in say, not-for-profit world, the money just isn't there. But then maybe the trade-off is, something, I really like to work 4 days a week.
I think it's difficult when you work for a company where, you're hearing every day that there are layoffs in other divisions. You know that where you work is already very lean. You're not afraid that you're going to lose your job because of a massive layoff, because your division is already as lean as it could be, and yet you still feel like you're underpaid as far as other people who are in the same industry. And it's funny, just recently we were all asked, really for the first time, to write our own reviews. I can't believe I'm saying this out loud on this podcast, but we were to reviews of ourselves, and I had never been asked to do that.
So I wrote it for her.
So Jen wrote it. No, I had my brother who is 39 years old and has had more jobs in the past 10 years. I've had one job for 30 years. He's had like 10 jobs in the last, or 30 jobs in the last 10 years. Like, he is the opposite of me. He's what you're supposed to do. You jump, and he's very smart about it. And so I went to him for advice. And then I had Jen help me. But I found it very difficult to kind of toot my own horn, as it were, and to really speak for myself. And when it came to what could they do to help you in the future, I think that was the hardest thing of all, because what you want to say is, I want to make more money, and yet you don't feel like you can come right out and say that. And so I think a lot of people did. I think a lot of people didn't take this seriously. I feel like it was an interesting exercise over, I work in a very small place where we all talk about everything. There's very few secrets. And so it was just an interesting exercise, and knowing that it's almost the end of the year, and that this kind of time of year where I could be reassessed, it's kind of sprung on you. It's not really, you're not asked about it, and you think here's a chance to, ask for something more. And it's a very nerve-wracking thing. I mean, it's funny. My father passed away a little more than a year ago, and I hear his voice louder in my head now about this than I did when he was alive, honestly. Um,
So, the question for you is, if you had a friend, a younger friend you were mentoring, and you knew they were somewhat underpaid, you'd say to them, get in there, get in
yeah,
there. There's no
yeah,
way you should put up with that. You should look at your value. And, so it's very hard to do that for one's self. But
yes,
what I do with clients when I'm meeting with them, I just start them off by just as we get to know one another, this is sort of preview to interview prep. It's like, just brag about yourself to me. Nobody's listening. I need to know because I don't know your story. So
yeah,
so brag one thing after the other, and it starts with that proud of sequence. But then I ask them, look, when you go running, when you go for a walk, when you're doing whatever you do, think about the things you're proud of and that you would brag about, so that when you have that conversation about the end of the year, say, look, I have introduced a new podcast. I have brought in amazing speakers. I have brought in some talent into the organization. And I know we're lean. And I know I'm
hmm
realistic because you have to read the room.
yeah,
But you say, my compensation feels a little light. And obviously I wouldn't be doing this if money was all I cared about, but I still feel that
right,
we can bring my number up a little bit.
right,
You wouldn't
yeah,
consider that, would you?
yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
I
I
like
like
you,
that
wouldn't
line.
you? I know, I like that line too.
Keeping you want to keep the conversation going, and you do not want to give people ultimatums. And I have to say, I probably have worked with somewhere between 425, 450 people since I started this business.
Wow,
I know of one situation where someone was fired for asking for more money.
wow,
Really?
And
wow,
the person they worked for, it was unfortunately it wasn't surprising, but if you ask in the right manner, what are they going to say? They're going to say, this is an ambitious person. This is why we love him or her.
yeah, right, right.
Yeah.
It's the old adage is like you have to, if you give an ultimatum, you have to be prepared to do the
Mm-hmm.
thing that you're threatening to do.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think a lot of people don't realize, and I think that's why they don't give them.
Yeah. And I think too, there's something to be said for, it's like you said, you're not just there because of the money. You're there because you love what you do,
Right.
hopefully. And those other things, those other perks that you might get with your job, whether it's time off, whether it's flexible schedule. The flip side of that is when you run your own business. And this is a question that I have for you. It's like it tied into the money, tied into all these things we're talking about. I do think as women, we just tend to undervalue ourselves no matter what. And, when I am pricing out programs or I've been doing this for 25 years, the cost of living has gone up, all of those things, but there's still something in my head that says like, oh, well, I'm only worth this because this is when I started out, this was the going rate and this is what I charge and that's it. I mean, how do you get past that as a business owner?
I would say in the beginning. So when I first started, I was like, free coaching, free coaching. So I did like I started off with a friends and family rate, just to see like, am I really going to do this? And my first client was a friend's son who was trying to decide whether to go to medical school. And so what we did was we sorted that out, and then we figured out what he had to do work wise in order to get there, and then he had to apply. So so I offered a very low price, just friends and family initially, and but you know, initially, I think a mistake, especially for women, is to underprice yourself, because at least for me, I charge primarily. I have either a package choice or an hourly rate, and so the hourly rate is. I mean, I meet with the client for an hour, but I read, I prep ahead of time. I make some notes. Oh, who do I know who can help this person? And so there's a lot of work that's happening beyond the time together. And so I think you just really have to play it out, and also you need a decent business plan. How many meetings can I do per week? And I actually have a nephew who is a really he works at Moody's, And very early on, he helped me with my business plan because he's got some mad Excel skills. And so we played out a whole scenario. How many clients would it take to reach this, annual compensation level, and played with that. And that's how I, sort of come up with, how to charge people. And I think it's, um, it's based on facts. It's like, if you were to go work somewhere, what would your value be, and what do you need to make in your business? What I would say to people is, I'm going to come in and I'm going to do this for you, and I actually expect this to have real value to you.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, when I help people ask for money, spending an hour or 2 hours with me is it has value, and you're going to see that value. So I think that really helps people. And look, what I do is a luxury. I do a lot of pro bono work as well. People who work with me are like, no more pro bono, please. I definitely do, but um, you know, we can make a difference in people's lives and what they earn and how quickly they get promoted and what kinds of jobs they can be offered.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess you're right. I mean, looking at what the market is paying, what the data says and all of that, it's a little bit of a big scale for what I do,
I think that's true.
Here's what I would say about that. When I first, when I was doing my homework, trying to decide what to do, I called a bunch of people who were coaches and they told me what they made. And I thought, that's not very much money.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that I'm ordinary. So I think I'm, I mean, this sounds terrible because I am a humble person, but what I do is really unique, and I see it make a huge difference. And people come back to me, spend 2 or 3 years in a place and say, I mean, my biggest compliment was I had a woman who was in her late 20s, early 30s. She worked in marketing. I was giving her interview prep over Zoom, and her dad, who was an attorney, because people often listen in the background when I don't know, her dad was listening. And this has happened more than once. The dad's like a big attorney, and he's doing something, and he wanted to speak to me to see if I could help him
Oh,
out.
that's funny.
And
That's amazing.
so when I was talking to people, like, what do other people make doing this? I don't do what they do. And so maybe you don't do
Yeah.
what they do.
Yeah.
You're doing something, quite extraordinary. And if you can articulate that and show that and prove it, it's worth more money. I'm not going to take, you don't need to meet with me for 10 years. I can help you in 15 sessions, and this is what we'll do. And it's going to make a huge difference. And yeah, my hourly rate is significantly more, but are you like shopping at, Costco, or are you
Right.
like,
You're
Yeah.
a boutique. You're very specialized
Boutique fitness.
Exactly.
Well, you brought up an interesting point, like when you were starting your business. Now, what do you tell people who have had a huge gap there? They stop working because they became moms, or they just stop working for some other reason. How do you reframe that gap, and give them like kind of like a second lease, or help them figure out maybe they don't even know what they want to do anymore? Maybe they're looking for like this second chapter that's not anything that they did before.
So two parts to that. And I think of a young woman in her 40s, two young kids, was getting divorced, and had worked at a private school in admissions. Really smart person, hadn't worked in a while. Um, and the first thing, like, sometimes it's just practical things, like, I need to make a little bit of money. And so while I still use the two instruments that I use early on, the strong interest inventory and Myers-Briggs, um, I really do try to understand what the person is good at, what they're interested in, to influence where we look. But then what I would say in this person's case, um, for anybody who has a gap, try to, volunteer, join a board, uh, uh, talk about like a hobby, a skill, the skills you have, so that you say something like your elevator pitch says, look, I was working in an admissions office. I really have terrific public relations skills, customer service skills. And I also was interviewing a lot, so I know how to read people. But I took these 5 years off to raise my kids. But my family's has a business, and I've always been in and around the legal business. So I actually, even though I haven't worked as an attorney, I'm very familiar with a lot of legal terms. And also, I've been class mom. My organizational skills are amazing. And so you try to pull the things out of your life experience, um, and um, and then have it relate again. Like, what is the job you're trying to get? Does detail oriented matter? Does you know? I have a young woman I actually hired who I adore. She doesn't work for me now, but she was nannying in Europe, in a country whose language was not her first language. And she had 4 kids, and the mom was traveling a lot. So here she was in a foreign country, kids, getting them to school, doing all the shopping. At 22 years old, she was running an entire household. She didn't have a classic job, but the skills and the experience and the maturity she developed doing that were amazing. So I would say, like, there's always something in there. So sometimes it's almost more impressive to see someone who has been able to overcome something.
Yeah. And I
Definitely.
like the transparency of that too. I feel like that says something about the person as well, that you're willing to be a little bit vulnerable and you're transparent, so you're honest. There's something to be said for
Yeah, it
that.
shows like in a small amount of integrity. I mean, I've often told this story how I actually got my job at Live. Art Moore, who was our executive in charge of production, and he ran all of programming for WABC at the time. Now, this is going back 35 years. And so I was an intern and I was working on a special with my boss and another producer. And I was sitting in the editing room with them and they had an argument with each other. And I was the only witness. It was a real he said, she said about, I don't even remember what it was about, but I was the only witness. So I got called in and my boss was wrong in this instance and the other producer was right. And I told the truth. And it really endeared me to Art. And so when the job came open at Live, I was like at the top of the list. Like he had like already had this experience with me that I always feel like I had shown this like kind of integrity and told the truth and was like, okay, I know she's my boss, but I need to go here. And it carried me through. I mean, it definitely is like my origin story of being at Live.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
It can, it's funny. I have a client who was fired 3 months into a job, and part of the reason was that they were uncomfortable with an issue around ethics, integrity,
Hmm.
and it isn't always welcome.
Yeah.
So that's a really tough decision for people, and so you have to dig into the details and know who you're dealing with. And, there's not a pat answer for everybody in that case, but um, it doesn't always work out well, but you have to live with your values.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
I
always
think
felt
that
that way.
if you're true to
Yeah.
yourself, whatever is meant to happen, whether that's getting fired or getting promoted,
Right. Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about the different tools that you use, these personality tests that you talked about. What I know you mentioned Myers-Briggs. Are there others that you find to be really insightful in kind of breaking down someone's personality type?
So I have been certified in 3: the Strong Interest Inventory, Myers Briggs, and the EQI, Emotional Intelligence. And so I think they're all like, if I should really, every year I should do another one, so that I understand the value of all of them. But I would say it's um, take the Strong Interest Inventory. It does 2 things. It asks you, it sort of determines what are your stated interests at this moment in time. But then the next thing it does is it compares your response pattern to people in jobs who say they like the work. So the that's the data side of it. And the magic or the crystal ball is like, I sit with a client and I say, okay, we're looking at this report. These are your top 5 interests. These are your top 10 areas where you're similar to people in these jobs. Let's see where the overlap is. So, writing and mass communication, reporter, it becomes a little bit of art instead of science. And so why I put so much value on it is, on paper, I don't look like I should be, I should have what is an artistic theme. But of course, I made jewelry in high school. I worked for interior designers. I wanted to create. I really, aesthetics they matter to me. And so sure enough, that was one of the themes that came through. So I think something like that allowed, like when you talk about someone going back into the workforce, it's like, you know what? I've always loved that. That's so weird, or as a kid, I was always building stuff with Legos. Like I really, so I love that instrument for that purpose. Then personality. So what happens is, statistically, people with certain personality types gravitate toward different careers. And in my case, I'm an ENFP, but I lean into the J as opposed to the P, because I have to be really organized for my work, but I don't like it.
Mm-hmm.
I like to be spontaneous, do whatever I want, whenever I want, but the world won't allow that. But sure enough, guess where you find them? In HR and interior design and, some kind of design roles. So I think that when people see that, on paper, they say to themselves, those who are successful say, I really, that's interesting, or I'm going to do that work in a way that works for me. So if you have, sort of a strength in intuition versus sensing, you should be in a role where ideation matters and they'll work out the details for you. Or if you are really buttoned up, you should work with someone who's good at intuition, because you're going to help them, make sure everything gets delivered on time and it's correct. So it's not like good or bad. It's like finding the right system to be in that values what you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you find that it changes ever? Or, because actually I remember, it's been a really long time since I've taken Myers-Briggs, but I believe I was an ENFP also. But
I feel like I was too. When you said that, I was like, oh, I think that's what I was. But I don't know. But you do that again.
Yeah. So does that?
I'll do them with you. That'll be fun.
Yeah. So could it change over time?
So what I understand is that with the strong interest inventory, it can definitely change over time. 10 years go by, I learn new things. I meet people who pull me in a direction that's interesting. So that can change. With Myers-Briggs, generally speaking, people have the same type most of their, for their life, but they lean into their non-dominant dichotomy. So, and I can say, as I've aged, definitely that has been true. I've been an extroverted personality, or an extroverted preference, as they say in the Myers-Briggs language. But, when I spend a lot of time with people, especially doing the work I do, I need, at night, someone will call me. I'll say, nope, all the words have been used today. I'm done. No more words.
So funny. I feel like that too. I mean, I don't think that anyone would ever say that I'm an introvert. I don't know. I don't think so. But on the weekends, like, I prefer to not do anything and speak to no one as well. And I'm like so happy like doing that. I think because you spend your days surrounded by people, and it's constant. It's a constant barrage of people.
So the answer is yes. For Myers-Briggs, probably stays the same, but you lean into non-dominant dichotomy. And the third, emotional intelligence, is, there's the Center for Emotional Intelligence at Yale University, and of course, IQ is, theoretically sort of static after 17, 18, 19 years old. EQ can be improved, and so. When I did my own, when I was given my assessment on emotional intelligence, I have a high emotional intelligence. However, what I discovered about myself was that there are sort of components to emotional intelligence that are really important as interplay. So, for example, having empathy, good. Being able to set boundaries, very good. But sometimes people with a lot of empathy don't do a good job at setting boundaries. And so that was an area for me to work on.
So, Maureen, what happens when someone, I would imagine this happens a lot, when someone's personality does not match the job that they have? How do you coach them to adapt in situations like that?
My job isn't to I try to encourage people, but I also say to them, these are the components of the job you want to do. And I don't want to burst your bubble because that's definitely not why I'm here. But maybe do something else while you're getting there and have that thing lean into some of the skills you're good at and see where it leads you. Because we all know that story of someone who, stuck with it over and over again. And it's like, they made it. Yes. So the person I was working with wanted to do one thing that was Hollywood oriented and the other that was they weren't going to be a fireman, but almost, and, a firefighter. So sometimes I say to them, let's take a pause. I think you've gotten everything you can out of me. And, sometimes for people, it needs to percolate, you know, um, uh, even when I decided, for example, to do jewelry design for 8 years, I felt like Goldilocks. I first decided it was going to be photography. So I did photography at School of Visual Arts, and then it was like a bunch of guys with talking about like what equipment do you have, and it was really technical. I just wanted to observe beauty and the world, and so I thought that's not for me. And then I went to the silversmithing class. Then I went to the goldsmithing.
Wow.
So sometimes you try it on, and that's okay because you can change your mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
I like trying it on. That's a good, and that's,
Yeah. It's look, that's what you do pretty much every day.
yeah. I think that there's there's all this these data driven assessments, and then there's also the human side, right? So how do you balance that?
Ugh.
Not well.
So do you mean as an individual interviewing? When they're in,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
So I was helping a young guy with a higher view interview this week, and so there were only 3 questions, and so we don't know how sophisticated their AI system is. Is it watching my eyes? Is it looking at my smile? If I look over at my notes, can they see me doing that? So how sophisticated is this thing? But how to prepare someone is always the same. It's what stories do you have? Because I always tell people when you go on an interview, whether it's a human or ATS system, visualize having 2 buckets next to your chair, and there are stories in there. There's stories about because we know what the job is, so we know what they're looking for. My analytical skills, my team, my ability to work as part of a team, my problem solving skills, whatever it is. Have those stories at the ready, and then when the prompt comes, and you can, one of the beauties of AI is you can pretty much imagine what a lot of the prompts and questions will be. And uh, so you just have to kind of practice, record yourself, see how you sound, and then stare into the green light.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't even know they did that.
Yeah.
An
Yeah.
AI interview.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is.
I'm a real Luddite when it comes to AI. I could tell you that. I almost never use it. I know that I'm going to need to understand it and use it, but the fact that AI would interview you for a job, it blows my mind.
Well, so I'm a big user of AI.
Same.
But with the caveat that sometimes it's just completely wrong.
Yeah.
And so it helps you think about angles. You might say, in my other job that I wear, the other hat, I say, all right, I'm going to write a request for a grant. And then I give it prompts, and then I find, oh, these are 3 other angles that I hadn't thought about.
Yeah.
And so, I think the positive of AI interviewing is that so much can be like, suppose you just like me, you interviewed me and I went to your school, and like we just share things in common. So therefore I'm skilled. So AI, depending on what goes into the algorithm for evaluation, AI can maybe remove some of those prejudices that come into decision making.
Yeah. I mean, conversely, if somebody doesn't like you and you're qualified for a job, it eliminates that too.
Right. Right.
Yeah, I use it a lot, and I mean,
you've been using it longer than anyone I've known.
Yeah, it's really interesting for my business and what I do. It really helps me to organize things, but it's all about the prompts that you put into it.
I think a lot of the examples that are frightening about AI are many. And if you talk to, I saw a presentation by the fellow who won the Nobel Prize, and how, run away from this. So it's definitely scary. But as a tool in real life today, I scanned, 60, 70 pages of information, and I asked for a summary, and I used 3 different systems to see what they would come up with. And I knew the subject as well, but it just saved a lot of time for me to give me an executive summary that I needed quickly.
Right.
And so, but scary.
So let's bring it back. Let's kind of like in closing, let's like give some parting, advice, like 3 things that someone should think about when they're looking for a job, this is going to be a long list, but looking to completely change their careers and what they do. What's like a first thing, like how would you, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, what are the first things that you should look at in yourself before you kind of approach a new venture? Does that sound right?
Yeah, I would say the first thing, I'm nothing if not pragmatic. So the first thing is, what are your needs? Do you need to make a certain amount of money? Like, are there practical? But remember, work is work, and so what do you need to earn? And where are you living? So a lot of do you have do you have the skills? Do you have the education? So start with some really practical questions, and then from there think about times when you were in the zone. Times when you were doing something that you felt good about, and what people tell you you're good at. And try to lean into roles that highlight your strengths. I mean, it's very, very basic. And then don't be afraid to start talking to people about it. Hey, I was thinking of, starting a training consultancy, and I really have a lot of expertise. What do you think? And the more you articulate that to people, you hone that elevator pitch. And so I would say start with the practical stuff, and from there build in what you love. And I like the idea of people, um, following their passion, but I also think I'm also like, it's a job, and then some days they ask you to do the stuff you don't like, and if you can get 60+%, 70% of what you like, and the rest is a little slog, it's okay.
What if you do those assessments and you find that the things that you love,
you can't get paid for?
You can't get paid for. Or do you believe you could get paid for anything?
I believe
it's called a hobby.
That is called.
Yeah.
I have a son. I adore him, but he trained. He went to Juilliard. He went to Trinity. He went to Juilliard's pre-college for vocal performance. He was a voice and opera. He was an opera singing political science major.
Wow.
And I always thought he would be an opera singer. And he still sings and plays the piano, but it's a hobby. And what I often think about, I have this painting in my house of sort of it's a parlor, and there's a piano, and there's someone playing the violin, and there's someone at the piano, and then the people sitting around. And today, if they were all kids today, mom and dad would tell them, the parents would say, "Oh, you're a singer. You're going to be a singer. You're going to be Beyonce, or you're going to be Yo-Yo Ma, or you're going to." that this was what they did in the evening for entertainment, and they might have had a beautiful voice.
Right.
So if you can't do what you love and get paid for it, definitely nurture that,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a hobby. Like, is it the ultimate is to take that thing that I love doing, say making jewelry, and I could be, coaching people and making jewelry over here. Well, I think you should say that. I mean, because I love doing those
Yeah.
two things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes that, there are practical matters like making a living. I would love to be a teacher, but I just don't think the compensation is enough to live in New York. I had a young woman come to me and say that, and she ended up going into consulting because she couldn't live in Brooklyn making what she was making as a teacher.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's also, and this is again a personal thing for me, there are things that I love, like I love design, I love interior design, I love fashion, and I think to my boyfriend's always saying, do it, just do it. I'm like, but how do I have any credibility to do that? Who's going to hire me to do it? I mean, do you just do it for free until you get the experience? I mean, at my age, I don't know, like all those things go through my head.
I don't let any of that stop you. You do, seriously. And I have to thank my ex-husband for helping me think about this, because he was a consultant and very thought things through in a very in a grid. But go back to what I was saying earlier, which is, what are the things I would love to do? What are the barriers to entry? How can I overcome them? Who do I know who's doing it? So for example, when I worked for an interior designer, I was a headhunter, but I just worked for my friend because I loved it. And I did more business development than actual designing because I didn't have the experience. So do something adjacent while you're doing your other job. And then, and in my case, like with coaching, I didn't have to go to a whole coaching program. I had years of experience.
Mm-hmm.
So you may have experience doing that thing that would just be leveraged by one or two certifications,
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes the world just has to stamp your your ticket.
You need to see letters after your name for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, that's good advice. Thank you. Well, thank you so much. This was great, Maureen. I love this conversation. A lot of great advice.
Where can people find you?
Well, they can find, I guess, lumenagents.com.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
So we have a website, LUMENAGENTS. Oh, thelumenagents.com, because Lumen Agents was not available.
Oh.
And so they can definitely find me online. And
great.
That's amazing.
They can, if they want a consultation, they can just sign up for that.
Cool. We'll put that in our show notes.
We definitely will. Thank you so much
Thank
for
you
being
so
here.
much.
Yeah, this was really fun for me. Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I really enjoyed that. I really
It was
enjoyed
so different for us.
So different.
Yeah.
I also feel like that unearthed of you, that whole interior design, it lives in you.
It keeps coming up, It's
Yeah.
like it keeps.
It's so silly to me that you don't do it. The fact that you don't think that you have credibility at it, when anyone who will meet you for 5 seconds, or when I even look at you today, you walk into my apartment, you're in like a beautiful cozy sweater. You're wearing everything is put together.
It is.
It isn't?
I don't know.
That's the thing. That's what I'm telling you. You don't. I'm like, I'll take a look. That you don't think about it, and it just happens. I look at you. I mean, I always joke. We go out, and I think oh, I got it all going on, and then I see you, and a little bit of me dies inside.
My God. Well, last night you were funny. You're like, I knew it was you because you were wearing that hat.
There's a car pulls up. It's a woman with a hat on. Wait, where did you have the hat all night?
I didn't. I took it off because it was so hot.
But where'd you put it?
In my purse. I put it in my purse.
But I like this car. Uber pulls up, and I'm like, oh, that's her. There's a woman in a hat. And not just any hat, a very big hat.
It was but
you walk out, you're perfectly put together. The jewelry is perfect. You use glasses, which is something that I've tried to emulate, even though I'm about to not need them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But that you use everything as something that
like
puts
an accessory.
Together, yes.
Well, the hat was because
I can't wait to hear
to me, it's like it's a little
pulled
bit
it all together.
Practicality too. No, the hat was because my roots need to be done, and I was like, I can't. But then I ended up taking the hat off anyway.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're digressing.
But I'm saying that all anyone would have to do is spend 5 minutes with you. Like, I have begged you to redo my parts of my apartment.
I know, but it's
no. Redoing that and the cleaning are really two separate things.
No, they're not, because the cleaning has to happen before anything gets redone. I can't even have a vision in here. I can't. I can't even. I need it to be. Yeah. No.
I can't have a vision.
I can't
have a vision.
I can't. It needs to be cleaned first. But I mean, I've made suggestions. I can't my style doesn't necessarily fit with everyone.
No, but with someone like me, you know me.
Right,
you know
right.
you know things that I like.
Yeah.
That may or may not be things that you also like.
Yeah.
But I mean, a lot of them are the same. You have good taste. Like I like most everything you like.
Well, I do have good taste, but no.
You do. I mean, look, I couldn't wear a lot of the clothing that you wear, but I like them.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate them.
There's this woman on Instagram who I think this is really cool. I think there's definitely a place for this where because I mean, look, I have expensive taste. I don't always buy the expensive thing.
But you do a lot.
I do. But this woman does is she takes those expensive items and she has the lookalikes.
Well,
yeah, she'll go and say here's this table from, Serena and Lily, and here it is on Amazon for, half the price.
Right.
But anyway, I thought that was kind of cool. But here's the other part of that is once I feel like I am I have a handle and a not a handle. What's that?
Grip?
I
don't know what you're trying to say.
I don't know what I'm trying to say either, because right now I'm overwhelmed with so many things. But
yes.
I think if I get my business, when I get my business to a place where I want it to be and it feels stable, then I feel like, okay, I could explore these other things that aren't going to really make me money at first.
Okay, but
I can't do everything. I just can't do it.
I'm not telling you to do everything, but I'm telling you two things that we already know about you and that you've always needed to work on, and I don't understand. Is that you feel like you're not worth it. You're not worth whatever, you are doing. Like to charge more, to be more, why would they want to do this with me? Like you have a lot of that.
Yeah.
I think you've gotten actually better over time.
And you know why? Because I have stopped comparing myself to people.
Yeah.
I have stopped. That is over, and that all that room in my head
that's amazing.
That's been freed up is, every once in a while I'll catch myself. Like today I was in the gym working out myself, and there was a trainer in there, and he's having a conversation with his client, and she is asking him oh, how many clients do you have, and where do you blah 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 blah. And I'm listening to him answer her, and I'm like, oh, he has that. How do you get those clients? And blah blah blah. And I'm like, okay.
Well, that's hard to do. I mean, look, that's just human nature to compare yourself to someone right in front of you.
Yeah.
You're not thinking about this guy
now. No.
But he's literally right in front of you.
Yeah.
I have to say, I want to point out one example is this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
It's when you think about it, we did not know anything about it.
Nope.
We didn't know how to, talking to people, asking questions, writing questions, the production of it.
Yeah.
All of it. We came in at ground zero.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure we're much above ground zero now, but we really are.
Well, I think
and not for nothing, we did it.
We're doing it. We're doing it. It is a hobby though, right now.
Yes.
Yes. That's what I was kind of getting at.
Oh, I wasn't getting
the thing that we love, that I love to do.
I love this.
Makes no money.
I love this.
Yet.
Yeah.
So anyway, on that note.
But anyway,
subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Please, we only have a few more people to get. No, but I did think like what she was saying, like all those things about asking for a raise or
money's always tricky.
No one ever wants to talk about money.
Uncomfortable.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
It's the worst. You know what I always think, like someone said, I'm saying this for all the world to hear, but it's like I work in a room. We all essentially have the same job, but I know there's different levels of pay. I feel like if we all got together and admitted how much
there's a gap. The gaps are
where the gaps are, and unite, like unionize, like you feel like we would have a lot more power, but nobody's. I'm not willing.
Well,
either.
no one's willing to do it because there are those people there who are making more money and they don't want to show their cards.
No.
Yeah.
But in any event, I just thought this was so interesting in how you think. Look, for myself too, like your own self-worth and what you're worth and comparing it to other people who are doing what you do is a big deal.
Yeah.
And like realizing that I thought was really interesting.
But I also think like the people that are successful are like, they don't care. Like
I know.
Do you know what I mean? Like, not that they don't, I don't mean they don't care about what they do. They don't, they're not embarrassed by anything. They say what they want. They ask for what they want. They put themselves.
Don't you feel like, I feel like this was, we were at this event last night about Bobby Brown, and there's something that she said that is so true of me right now, is that at this age that I'm at, which I hate being at, by the way.
Same age as Bobby Brown.
No, I think she's older than I am by a little bit. Okay. But you don't care anymore. You really don't care.
What people think.
What people think, what other people are doing. Like, even like, I just find myself, even in the office, like gossip or like, I just want to like do my thing. I want us to do our thing. I don't, if I don't want to do something, I don't do it. If I want to do something, I do. I get invited to something, I'll go. If I don't, I don't.
Right.
Like, you just don't care anymore because you realize you're at a point in your life where, A, something we talk about ad nauseum, life is short. And B, it's like, it's like you don't know how much time you have left. So it's like, I just want to enjoy it and do the things that I want to do.
Yeah, do the things you want to do.
Yeah.
I think we should take those assessments.
Definitely. I want to take that Myers-Briggs again. When I started therapy, when I was, I didn't know it then, but I was training for a divorce. My therapist made me take the Myers-Briggs, and it wasn't surprising. Like the answers weren't surprising to me.
Right.
And they fit with me and what I do and how I spend my time. But the other thing, the emotional
intelligence.
I've never taken that. Like, we should do those things.
Yeah, we should do it. And the stronger.
What did you call it? I don't remember that.
Maybe we should take something for our memories. I mean, she just said it 5 minutes ago. Neither of us remember. Oh gosh. Okay.
Anyway, well, we hope this gave us food for thought. We hope it gave you food for thought. Thanks for listening. I'm Maureen Veitch.
And I'm Jen Giamo.
And this again was Everybody Talks.
Talk to you next time. For more information about our podcast, to learn more about us, or to catch up on all of our episodes, go to our website at everybodytalkspodcast.com.
Follow us on Instagram at Shirley, at Jen Giamo, and at Everybody Talks. And if you want to watch today's episode, go to our YouTube channel at Everybody Talks Podcast.
If you want to be a part of the conversation, join the Everybody Talks community and become an exclusive member of our wellness group. Check out the link in our show notes to learn more.
Don't forget, if you like what you've heard, give us a 5-star rating, write a review, and tell a friend. We're for everybody and everybody. The Everybody Talks podcast is co-created, executive produced, and hosted by us, Lori Schulweiss and Jen Giamo. Produced and edited by Station 16.
Our theme song music is written and performed by Jackie Ryle and Aaron Navisi, with additional support from our pups, Oliver, Milo, Murray, and Frankie.
Talk to you next time.